Hi, YouTube family. I wanted to add another introduction to the Roman Rose channel. I'm going through a transitional phase in my life right now, and I'm using my professional background to help me through this time. I created Roman Rose Media. I'm going to be creating an ebook and a course for beginner teachers to really help my fellow educators out, because you cannot go into this field haphazardly. You have to really know what you're doing. You want to be a highly effective teacher. You want to teach every child in the room. You want to differentiate your lessons. And I will be helping with all of that. I'm creating a course also because I want to be an adjunct professor. So I'm thinking about, what do college kids need to know when they're entering this field? Like I said previously, I have been doing this for 15 years. So I have a lot of knowledge, and I want to share that with my educational community. Thanks for listening. Hi, YouTube family. Today I'm coming at you from the park. Please like and subscribe for more Roman Rose Media Productions. As I sit in this park, I'm thinking about my purpose, right? Because teachers are on vacation now, and you have a lot of time to think about your hobbies, what you're into, and how to perfect your craft. So early next year, or mid next year, we're going to have Roman Rose Productions is going to have an ebook and a course out so that you can become the best educator out there. We're going to have content and courses, and always, watch the YouTube videos. They have special gems too. Hi, YouTube family. As I'm coming at you from this park, I'm thinking about a lot of rappers' acceptance speeches. Most notably, Snoop Dogg's, when he said, "I want to thank me. Thank me for doing all the work." A big part of your success as a teacher is going to be you doing a lot of work. You will be putting in the hours. You will be creating lesson plans. You will be the one buying materials and buying this and negotiating if you can get reimbursed. Talking to parents, making sure that their children learn everything. So as I'm thinking on this nice afternoon about how to perfect your crafts, that speech comes into mind, because he said, I want to thank me for doing the hard work, and I want to thank me for this. And you're going to have to do a lot of the work, and you're going to have to thank yourself, because sometimes it is a thankless profession. So don't forget to thank yourself. Please like and subscribe. Thank you. As I speak about negotiating things, I think back to a time where I had to negotiate my salary. I got a raise, and it wasn't what I was expecting. So I did my research, and I went to my principal, and I said, I should be making this based on my level of experience, based on my education, based on what other teachers are getting paid. And my principal looked at me, he looked at my number, and he said, the best I can do is this. At the time, I was very happy. It was a few $1,000s increase. And I only got that increase because I asked for it and I advocated for myself. That's important in education. You have to advocate for yourself. You have to know your worth. You know what you're bringing into it. You did a lot of work in college. You did a lot of work outside of college during student teaching. You know your worth. Know what you're worth, and don't accept less. Go and negotiate. Be professional, but be stern about your worth, and what you can bring to the table and how much you should be getting reimbursed for that. Another way to know your worth is to job hop. Some principals and some districts just might not be paying what you deserve, and you have to go and find other districts that will pay you what you deserve. So I am all about job hopping. There's all kinds of websites now that you can look at to know how much you're worth. What is this level of experience going to afford me? What is this little level of education going to afford me? How can I make the most money? Of course you want to help the children, and but you don't want to be green about it. You don't want to be naive about it. You have your own student loans. You're going to want to buy a house. You're going to want to start a family of some sort, even if it's just you and a significant other. You have to be able to know your worth and to be making the most money for that. Think back, if you come from a blue collar family, your father, your grandfather, your grandmother, your mother, they had to work hard so you can go to college. You cannot accept less than your worth. You need to know your worth, and you need to get it. You need to get that money. You need to do it. Everybody does a job. You trade your time for money, right? The service that you're giving is your expertise and education. And in return, you are accepting a paycheck. And you want to make sure you're getting the most out of that paycheck. And that's why I advocate job hopping and advocating for yourself. You are a professional. Hold yourself to a professional standard and don't accept less than your worth. Please like and subscribe for more videos. Thank you. Hi YouTube. When you think about a diamond, it's beautiful and it's shiny. Did it get like that overnight? No. The piece of coal had to go under a lot of pressure to get to where it is, to get to be valuable. You will have to go under a lot of pressure to know your worth and to be valuable, right? People use analogies like this all the time. They use analogies like this because it's easy for people to understand. You are valuable. You might be going through a rough time right now. So does a diamond. But a diamond knows its worth. You have to know your worth. You have to know that it's going to be hard. You're going to go under pressure. If you're in college studying, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of papers. It's a lot of long nights. It's a lot of coffee. You didn't do that for nothing. You did that so you can have a nice career. It's a lot of pressure, and you have a nice career. And like I said earlier, if you're coming from a blue-collar family, those family members work their behinds off, right, to help put you through college. And now you're coming out of it as a professional, and you want to be making that money, be making that professional money because you went through all that pressure, and now it's your time to shine and get what you're worth. Another rapper who comes to mind with an acceptance speech is Cardi B. And what did Cardi B say? She said, even the haters will download my music. And you're not for everyone. Not everyone will get along with you. Not every parent will like you. You won't mesh well with every administrator. What's my advice? Stick it out? No. Stick it out for the year and then find a school that will support you. Find an administrator you will mesh with. Find an administrator that will help you with a difficult parent. Be professional as always, but know who you get along with and who you mesh well with, because not everybody in education will mesh well with you. It's important to understand that, it's important to know yourself and what you can deal with. People talk about what's the best revenge? How can I get back at this person or that person? There is no best revenge. Let it go. Forgive them. Move on. Find your peace. Live your best life. There's no revenge. Let the karma police take care of it. Give it up to God. Give it up to the universe. It's not for you. Whatever happens to those people that did you wrong is not your concern right now. You know what is your concern? You. You are your concern. You have to put the work into you so that you can live your best life. And how does this relate back to teaching? As I said earlier, they'll have many angry email from parents. And you will want to go in the teacher's lounge and talk about these emails and talk about this parent and share your experiences. You don't know what this parent's going through. You don't know what's happening in their life. You don't. It's not good karma to wish bad on these people either. They're doing the best that they can with their children. You want to handle the situation as professionally as possible, and then internally, because you do go home and think about the kids and the parents. For karma's sake, don't wish them bad. Hopefully, if you're a praying person, pray for them. If you think that karma will take care of them, maybe karma will show them a better light. Maybe it'll help them out with a financial situation, and they'll be better people in general. So don't have any revenge on anybody. You just, as the vernacular of the kids, right? You do you. You become the best educator that you can be. There is no revenge. Just the best revenge is a life well lived. Be the best educator you can be the best person you can be, move on, have peace with it, focus on yourself, focus on your professional goals, subscribe to my channel for more tips. The ebook will be coming out next year. I'll have an online course going. Thank you. So you have an administrator that you're butting heads with. What do you do? Reach out to your mentor. Are they also having a hard time with this administrator? Is it you? Reevaluate your work. Are you turning in your paperwork on time? Are your lesson plans thoroughly thought out? Does this administrator warrant a reason to be difficult with you? First and foremost, you have to think about that. Parents want the best for their child, and you have to give them that. You have to give them the best educational experience possible. You have to plan out your lesson plans. Your report cards, progress reports have to be in on time because somebody from the administration has to read them. Make sure that you're following all the rules and protocols of your school. But if after all of this, you've evaluated it and your administrator is still difficult, and your spidey senses are tingling, and it's not going to be a good fit, then it's not going to be a good fit. Bow out gracefully, give your 2 weeks notice, and find a school that will respect you and honor what you're doing. But you do have to go inward first, because if you didn't do lesson plans at one school and you think you can get away with it at another school because you have a connection there, people want people who work. You have to work. You have to do the job. And then you can be friendly with people. But don't think you can not do a lesson plan correctly, and because your friend said, oh, you can work with me in this job, that it's just going to work out. No, you have to do lesson plans correctly. You have to follow the procedures, follow the protocols. Parents are not your friends. Always be professional. use your work email. Don't give out your phone number. Use whatever platform your school subscribes to communicate with parents. You have to look inward first before you can blame an administrator for not meshing well with you. I've been doing this a long time, and I didn't mesh well with one administrator, and she wasn't a top administrator either. She was like a lower administrator, and I felt like she was trying to catch me doing something wrong. So I consulted with other teachers, and they're like, oh, don't worry about her, just ignore her, do this, do that. That's how she is. So in that culture of that school, it was known and people just accepted it. However, I could not accept being around somebody who was going to try to destroy me professionally. So I bowed out. I left that school. I went to a different one. And I didn't have that problem anymore. Thank you. How can you find your peace when life is stressful? The same way that you tell your children to relax, you have to relax. Take a deep breath, right? Breathe in, breathe out. Do that 3 times. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. And the good thing about education is that in your day, you can actually do this with your children. And it can reduce your stress. It can reduce their stress. Outside of the workplace, how can you reduce stress? It can be very tempting to, slide into all of those memes that say, they have the coffee cup for AM and the wine glass for PM. Don't rely too heavily on that wine glass. It can cause other problems. How else can you get out your stress? You can do yoga. You can do meditations. There's all kinds of apps out there that do meditations, to do yoga, go on a walk, spend time in a park like I am. Find your interests. Do you like the water? Are you near a source of water? Do you have a friend that has a source of water? Even maybe you could take a bath. Don't rely so heavily on the wine glass. It'll just make other problems for you that you have to endure later on in life. And find other ways to distress yourself, okay? Thank you. So some other ways to distress when you don't have a lot of time. Okay? So maybe you can put on some music that you like listening to. It could be soothing music, it can be rock music, it can be rap music, it can be whatever kind of music. Maybe that will help you relax. Maybe a nice cup of tea will help you relax. Other stress relievers can help you relax. Like I said, yoga. They have stress balls for adults. They have coloring books for adults. You can color with a niece and nephew or your own children. There's a lot of other ways to distress, like I said. That's not the wine glass. A nice 10-minute walk after dinner can do a lot to reduce your stress. Having that work-life balance can also reduce stress, which I said earlier you have to find. You have to have a nice work-life balance because it is stressful. So now we're going to talk about 9 ways to be a highly effective teacher, because everyone should want to be a highly effective teacher. Where I am, there is a highly effective teacher rubric. I did not make up the phrase. I don't own that phrase. That is a different phrase in a different book by a different educator. These are just some generic ways to be highly effective as a teacher. The first one is to plan your lessons. You need your lessons planned out to the T. You might not always follow them, but you need to have a direct plan of where you're going. They need to be interesting, grab attention, have an activity afterwards to engage the class, STEM, one of those activities, but it has to Has to be nicely planned out. You have your anticipatory set, your lesson. How do you check for understanding? Very important to have a well planned out lesson. Next is to have a sense of humor. It can be fun to laugh with your students and interact with them. I would say that this should not happen until January because you need to have, I didn't laugh with my students until January, every class, because in September you have to be the most strict, follow the behavior protocols, and the kids won't do those things anymore because they don't like the consequences. So once you're follow the discipline plan, September, October, November, December, then you still follow it in the spring, but you can go a little bit more lax. They are leaving you in May and June. This is all. Number 3 is to show respect and get respect. That's true. You do have to show respect first, right? You have to be nice to them first before they're nice to you, especially those kiddos that have a classification of a disability. Some kids have ODD, and they will be combative with you, and they will argue back with you, and it's their disability, but you have to be respectful of them, use a schedule, a lot of independent work, things of that nature. Number 4 is to communicate. You have to communicate with families, with the children. They should be a rubric. They should know your expectations. Have everything written out. It's always better. Like I said before, I love my data. I love to have things written out. Nobody can come back to you and say, this is not how it was. Yes, it was. This is how it was. This is how I wrote it down. So communicate in emails too, with parents. I informed you of this on this day. We spoke about this on that day. You always want to have something positive to tell parents, but when you're emailing them, there's always a record of it, right? If you have a communication notebook, they could always rip out a page. So it's always something. You have to cover yourself first. Reduce distractions. This might be for like older kids who have cell phones or the iWatch or whatnot. You want to have some kind of plan in effect to reduce those distractions. Be confident. Of course, you have to be confident in everything that you do, and the lessons that you teach, the way you talk to administrators, the way you talk to parents. You see, I keep mentioning administrators and parents and the students because they all go together. You cannot only like the children. You cannot only like the children to be a highly effective teacher. It's about the parents and the administrators just as much as it is about the children. And people might gasp at me saying that, but that is the reality of the situation. You have to deal with administrators. You have to be confident in yourself. Know your profession. Know what you're doing is correct. Know that you're following the lesson plan. They're aligned with the standards. You're doing this and this. You communicated this and this day. Know your stuff. So nobody has to tell you, no, you were supposed to do this. And then you just say, actually, if you look at the staff handbook or the state standards or the whatever, I am doing it correctly. So you want to be confident, but you have to know your stuff, right? That goes back to number 1. To create the lesson plan, create your plan, know what you're doing. Have a clear discipline policy. This is true because the children have to know what they're doing is not acceptable. And how are they going to know that if there's not a clear plan? And you should also have them make the plan with you on the first week of school. Have them make a plan. Give them ownership The more ownership the children have, the more likely they will follow that plan. And you want them to follow that plan. You do. You make them a part of it, they'll follow it. Excuse me. It's all things you need. Improve yourself. Number 8, improve yourself. What does this mean, improve yourself? Get your CTE hours. Do your computer coursework. If you're a teacher, you're always a learner. Know different ways to do things. The newest way to do things. You have to do like 1,500 hours, right? Or 100 hours after you graduate. So you are ahead of the research and the education, and you're at the same playing field as a new teacher getting out. You have to improve yourself. And new teachers, read the books. Get the classroom management book that you had in college. Break it out. Everybody has it. We all look at it. We all use it. It's important. Improve yourself. Read books about teaching. Go to courses about teaching. There's always ways to improve yourself. This number 9 is have an open door policy. Have an open door policy with limitations, right? These are your office hours. I had one coworker who was older than me. She's since retired, but she would give out her telephone number, her landline telephone number to the families. And she, in the beginning, when you meet the teacher, she gives it to them in the paperwork. This is my phone number. You can use it before 8 o'clock. I will answer the phone. If it's about a project that is due the next day, I will not help. That child waited too long. If it's about a homework problem, I'll be happy to help. And she found that people really didn't call her because they had the opportunity to, but they didn't. And they were respectful of her time. She was a no-nonsense teacher, and the parents knew that, and they respected her time. She said that she probably got like 1 call a year, and she had a classroom of 30 kids. And when she got 1 call a year, between those times, people respected her boundaries on her open door policy, but she was there. She, let the parents know that she cares about their kid. If they don't understand multiplication, if they don't understand division, I'm here if you have a homework question. We can talk about this. If you have something you don't understand, we can talk about this. So that's good. It reassures the parents' minds. If you have an open door policy like that, you might answer emails until 5 o'clock, whatever time you do. I wouldn't recommend answering emails all night long, especially if you have the email app on your personal cell phone. I wouldn't recommend that. I don't think that's a great idea. Answer emails until a certain time. And if you're really close to burnout, only answer emails when you're at your computer. You're doing you want the long game here, right? You don't want to quit in the middle of the year. When I'm at work, I will answer my emails. And when I'm not at work, I won't answer my emails. You have to do that for a while. It's just going to happen. Have your professional boundaries. If your principal calls you at 8 o'clock at night, are you going to answer the phone? You're going to let it go to voicemail. What are you going to do? You have to know about this before it happens, because when it happens, you have to be prepared. You could always call them back in the morning. Thanks for listening to the 9 things that an effective teacher has to know. So again, round robin reading is when one child is reading 1 paragraph, 1 line, 3 lines, and then the next child reads. So round robin reading can give learners who are not fluent readers a lot of anxiety. They're not going to comprehend the text. They're going to be thinking about how they have to read, how they have to sound out the words. It's a waste of time. You can have the children read to themselves. You can read aloud. You can have volunteers read aloud. You might say, but I want to hear all the students read. fine. They can do so privately at your desk, right? If you have to do dibbles, I don't know if you have to do that anymore, but you had to check the fluency of readers, and it was between you and the student, while the other students were in groups. Then no child should be forced to read aloud in front of his or her peers, especially if they're not the best reader. You want to create lifelong learners. You want these children to love reading when they're an adult. And they will not love reading when they're an adult if they remember the time when you made them read aloud in 3rd grade and they couldn't figure out a word and everyone laughed at them. People remember these things. I had a great aunt who passed away now, but she lived until she was 80. And she remembered in kindergarten how one of her classmates made fun of her, and she never forgot it, and she would always tell the story. So, you're going to try to prevent bullying as much as possible in your classroom, because your classroom should be a safe space. It might be the only safe place your student has to go to. School is very predictable for children, and it reduces their anxiety when they know what to expect. When they go home, they might not have a routine. They might not know what to expect. But in your classroom, you have a routine, you have a safe space for them, right? You want them to thrive. Hopefully, if there is something serious going on at home, they would talk to you or somebody, so you can call the hotline, report it. Always check in with your students, talk to your students, report it. You can save a kid's life or save them from having trauma, and you want to save them from having trauma. You want to have a safe space for children. You want them to thrive, and if you can get them out of an abusive situation, that's even better. It's even better that way, because you're a mandated reporter, so look out for the signs and report it, and then the investigators will do their job, but you be that mandated reporter and report something. The last one, for the last number 4 in the 4 ways to differentiate instruction in environment, is to create a quiet space where there are no distractions. I've seen a lot of Pinterest teachers do this with a little tent, a little igloo, a little something. You can just have a library. You can go to a carpet store and ask them for a square of carpet that you're a teacher, if you can donate it to them. If they can donate it to you, you have like 4 squares, put it on the floor. If you go to Dollar Tree or Dollar Store, you can probably get a pillow, and that is your quiet space for not a lot of money and not a lot of time. Like I said, you want to prevent burnout. You cannot be doing everything perfectly. A nice carpet on the floor with a pillow is a quiet space, right? If you want to also have that quiet reading area also be a relaxation area for children where they can decompress, get their emotions together, that would be great too. And you can do this through all levels, right? So in pre-K, you might have a cozy corner where there's writing and there's pillows and there's self-regulation tubes, the tubes that you look in and it's like a lava lamp, but it's safe. There's squeezy toys, there's fidget spinners, there might be headphones for them to listen to music. All of those things would help to reduce their anxiety, and help them self-regulate their emotions. Self-regulation of emotions is Such an important skill that a lot of our kiddos don't have. And I'm serious, a lot of adults don't have this ability to self-regulate their emotions. You know, we have to be able to breathe through things, not be so reactionary. Take a breath, count to 5, put your hands in your pockets. These are all skills that not everybody knows. And if you can teach it to a 3rd grader, and then the 4th grade teacher does it again, that child will have some knowledge of how to self-regulate themselves when they get older. Okay. There is this great book about differentiation, and it's How to Differentiate Instruction in Academically Diverse Classrooms, and it's by Carol Ann Tomlinson. And this is from her book. I don't have a copyright to this. She says that kids of the same age aren't alike when it comes to learning, any more than they're alike when it comes to their size, hobbies, personalities, or likes and dislikes. Kids do have many things in common, but they don't have everything in common. They might share things in common, but they are individuals, so they need to be taught individually. In a differentiated classroom, the commonalities are acknowledged and built upon, and the student differences become important elements in teaching and learning as well. So that was very nicely put. And you can differentiate anything, right? We already heard about that. Content, the media and methods teachers use to impart and instruct skills, ideas, and information is the way that they present the content of the material. Processes, this exercises and practices students perform to better understand the content. So different exercises they can perform in the classroom to comprehend the text that they read. Products, the permanent product of the student. We said this, they could have a test, they could have a project, they could create a diorama, and to help create lessons that engage and resonate with students of a diverse class. These are the 20 things you're gonna have to know. Create learning stations. Learning stations are great. You can have a flexible seating plan. Divide them into groups. Have different learning stations for different areas that a student might be good in. You know, if you're doing reading and you're doing it in kindergarten, you could have one station where they are using magnetic letters to put words together for a phonics lesson. That is fun and engaging. You know, because if you're in a reading group, usually you have like 4 groups and one group works with the teacher. The way we did it was that the child that needed the most help saw the teacher 2 times in the rotation. And the children that understood or comprehended the text more, they saw the teacher 1 time in the rotation of the 90 minutes. But learning stations are great. I mean, like I said, you can use the magnetic letters. Nowadays, you could probably use the iPad on one of those educational learning apps. One person can meet with you and one person can do a file folder of whatever the reading strategy that you were doing that day. Is it author's purpose? Is it fact or fiction? Whatever the reading strategy is, that's what they have to do. And that's great. And you have the permanent product. You can put that in their portfolio. You can use it as evidence of their learning. Permanent products are great. Another way is to use task cards. Answering task cards can also be a small group activity. It can add variety to classes that normally focus on solo or large group learning. This might be a difficult one for some people, but first, make or identify the tasks and questions that you would typically find on worksheets and in textbooks, and just put them on task cards, you know, in the task folder. Durability is very important. You are going to want to print and laminate and Velcro so you can use it year after year. Hopefully you'll stay with the same grade for a couple of years, because if you work hard the first year, you're not going to have to work that hard on year 5, because you already have all those materials. You get it, label in a bin in the closet, you take the bin down, we're doing this book, bing, bang, boom. Or it's October, we're doing this book, bing, bang, boom. Fine. You have everything prepared already. Did the standards change? They might a little bit, so you might have to print up standards during your prep time, but you're not going to have to create the materials like you had to your first time. You know, there's not many things a teacher has to have. You don't have to have a wonderful classroom, a Pinterest classroom, but you have to have, I would say, your own personal laminator, because you don't know the laminating schedule. It might be a headache. You know, if you just get your own personal laminator, it's not that much money and you can just use it. You need laminating pages. Hopefully your school provides you with that. Mine does. It's great. And, you know, the Velcro strips, I didn't know if I could say that, but those sticky Velcro strips, you know, you need that to create the file folders. Everything else you don't need. Beginning of the year, September, figure out how many you're going to need per child. Ask the children to bring in 5 of those folders. Like I said earlier, in September, the parents are very eager to give the school supplies, or they will find an organization that will. So make sure you tell them how many folders you need. Use those folders. You know, it's not that hard. Nowadays, we have teachers pay teachers. You could pay some money, buy the already made task cards, and just print them out. Also, there are free resources on Teachers Pay Teachers, because teachers like to help out teachers. So you could use those, use their ideas, maybe make it yourself in a PowerPoint. Or if you want to get old school, you can use crayons and markers and just type it out and literally cut and paste it, which is what I've done, I guess, because I am old. Another way to differentiate is to interview students. This can be a fun one if the child is auditory, or if they have the gift of gab and their verbal language is better than their written language. This can really help them out, because they can express the information to you, but they can't express it in writing. So this would be great for them to really shine. And remember, differentiation, you want every student to shine and show you what they can do in a different way. Okay. Or you can target different lessons using the 5 senses. So this might seem more of an early childhood thing, but you can definitely do it for the older child too. You know, a lesson should resonate with more students if it targets visual, tactile, auditory, and kinesthetic senses, instead of only the one, visual and auditory, right? You see a picture, you listen to a lecture, that's like so old. Now you have to have tactile, have them do something, touch something, and kinesthetic, use their whole body to learn, right? So what can you do? Play videos, use infographics, provide audiobooks, give students a scene to act out from a story, incorporate charts and illustrations within the text, giving both spoken and written directions to tasks, use relevant physical objects such as money and clocks when teaching math skills, allowing time for students to create art reflections and incorporate that into the lesson, and don't have that be any less than the child who is acting out a scene from a story. You know, they should be judged this. It should be the same amount of their grade. Like 10% of that is part of their grade. It should go for everything then. Tell your students your own strengths and weaknesses. Everybody has a strength and a weakness. Not only will this help them understand that people naturally just learn differently, but it'll give them insight into providing how they can learn better, or their best way to learn. The think, pair, and share strategy. It exposes students to 3 lesson processes and 1 activity. The strategy is just like the name implies. They have to think. So they think about the passage, about a given topic or an answer. Next, they pair up with a student to discuss their findings. Finally, the pair shares it with the class to end the concluding lesson. Because differentiating instruction, it allows the students to process your lesson content individually. In a small group, they could talk about it, and in a large group, they could share it, because this person over here might not have thought about what this person over here presented. So you always want to, it's always a nice way to end the class, to have the pairs share what they did, what they talked about. Make time for journaling. This is a great do now. In the beginning of the lesson, if you're teaching older kiddos, they have, you have the aim, the do now, journal reflection for 5 minutes as you're taking attendance and getting yourself together. They can do some journaling for 5 minutes. It'll help them process the new information. Think about the last chapter that we read. They can summarize the key points they've learned. They can attempt to answer and make sense of questions they didn't know about. And this journal entry should not be thought of as not work, because you'll be collecting it. There always has to be some kind of consequence to it, right? They have to know what they're doing matters, that you're going to look at it. So you're going to, maybe they write it in a special composition notebook or journaling and reading. And at the end of the week, on Friday, you're going to collect them all and grade them. Now, how will you grade them? It's up to you. You could be doing it randomly. And grade, or you could, randomly check one journal entry and use that journal entry as the one you're going to grade. You can grade them all. That's time consuming. You got to think about a way. You can explain how this lesson will help them out in the real world. If you are teaching a lesson about money, they'll need to know this in the real world. Right now we still use cash money, so they should know about money in the real world. They should know how to tell time, even though not everybody sees the analog clock anymore. They see a digital clock. They should still know how to tell time. These fundamental skills are things that our students should have, and that will really help them out in life. An English class, this will really help you out when you're taking the SATs and you're going to school, going to college. This will really help you out. It's always important for them to have a reason. They can also illustrate new concepts, which can be especially helpful for data-focused math lessons. And as they continue to make entries, you're also writing in your feedback on their entries. And if they're struggling with something, maybe they don't want to verbally tell you, they can ask you in the journal, I don't understand why this character did this. I don't understand in math how this and this makes sense. All of these things can help you out. Number 8, you can have your students make goals of their own. They can identify skills to improve and topics to explore. Based on the results, you can target lessons to help them meet these goals. We're not talking about IEP goals here. We're talking about your general ed student making goals for themselves, and then you helping them reach those goals. You can have literature circles. It helps the auditory listeners to have literature circles, and if they're acting out something, that also helps the kinesthetic learner. So if they have a literary circle, somebody is talking, somebody is acting something out, it can help out 2 learners in one activity. Other different types of free study time. free study time will generally benefit students who prefer to learn individually, but can be slightly altered to also help classmates process your lesson. This can be done by dividing your class into clearly defined sections. You can have a solo and team activities. And some things to consider, again, like with the stations. You can have audiobooks, which will play materials. You can have a station for a group challenge that they can make up their own exploring question about the text. What would they do if they were the character? You can maintain a designated quiet space. Your quiet, cozy corner is always going to be in the quiet, cozy corner. Even if you have an older class, it can go where the library is. And allow space for the students to work in while they are doing that. Let them move their desks. Let them go into a circle. These free study times will benefit the diverse learners and will help them process the information. You can group students with similar learning styles together. I wouldn't do it that much, but you can. Yes, heterogeneous grouping is a common practice, but grouping students based on similar learning style can encourage collaboration through common work and thinking practices. This is not to be confused with grouping students based on similar levels of ability. In some cases, doing so is in conflict with how we teach. This tactic will allow like-minded students to support each other's learning while giving you the time to spend with each group. And you can offer the optimal kind of instruction. You know, in the reading groups, you can break it up into 10 minutes, 10 minutes. If you have 4 groups, one group will see you twice at the beginning and the end. Everybody else will see you one time, and they're doing other things at the other times. So the next one we're going to talk about is consider giving different sets of reading comprehension activities. Instead of having the students focus on writing, consider giving them reading comprehension through questions and activities that test different aptitudes. Although written answers are easy and they're the most common way, they're not for every learner. They might thrive best to challenge themselves during artistic or kinesthetic tasks. Allow those students to also shine. You want to reach all learners with your one lesson. That's important. It's how to be highly effective. You have to do it. It's not an option. Not anymore. You have to reach all learners with every lesson. You can have them participate in more literature circles. They can deliver a presentation. They can write a traditional report. They can create visual art. Number 13, assign open-ended projects. This could be a project where they create a rubric for the material if they were the teacher. Doing this will help challenge and help students to meet the specific criteria. And it will also give them a chance to see what it's like to be a teacher and put themselves in your shoes, which is important to do. And they can demonstrate their knowledge in different ways through doing this. You want to encourage students to propose ideas for their projects. You might have a list of ideas for them to do, but then the other one you might have other, and you can have them put in the idea for the project. After all, the students themselves are the focus of the differentiated instruction, and they'll likely know something about their learning style, especially if they're older. Analyze your differentiated instruction strategies on a regular basis. Even if you're confident in your overall approach, Carol Ann Tomlinson, one of the most reputable educators in the business, recommends that you analyze your differentiating instruction activities. You're an educator, so you're going to be a lifelong learner. So you have to analyze it on, quarterly basis, the content processes, the products, analyze what you're doing, make it fresh, keep it up to date. You're always going to be a learner. Teach up. Harming your differentiated instruction efforts. Teaching at a level that's too easy. It has to be in their zone of proximal development. Remember Vygotsky? It has to be in that zone of proximal development. That is when children learn. It can't be too hard. It can't be too easy. There's a zone, and you're using your differentiated instruction to reach that zone. And you want it to be in that zone, because if it's too easy, the kid might act out with other behaviors. And if it's too hard, the kid might act out with other behaviors because they don't understand the material. So you have to provide scaffolding for all the learners. Use math ed tech that adjusts itself for each student. This is a new age. You don't have to differentiate like you used to. There's ways to do it with technology. They should be giving you a computer in the room. Now they give everybody iPads. So you find out what they're good in, find out their strength, find out where they are based on their assessments, right? Data-driven classroom, assessment-driven classroom. You know where they are. Use that data to your benefit. Use it with technology. The least work you have to do is the better it is. Relate math problems to their personal interests. You can even use kids' names. Using contextual learning strategies to teach integers and increase test scores by more than 44% when the students had access to examples that related to their real life. Okay, thank you for listening to Ways to Differentiate Instruction. Please like and subscribe. Leave a comment on a topic you would like me to talk about next. Have a great evening, YouTube family, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment.
I'm sorry.